Okay, so this is the video editing diary for our finished music video. The screen we're looking at the moment is Premiere Pro, uh, which is where the majority of the editing took place. It's a, I'd say it's a professional editing software, but it's easy to grasp the basics. So we could do the basic functions that were required. So we could cut up clips, crop them down. So this is a timeline where we do this, and I mean I think we just primarily cropped, but you can also slice with this tool and cut segments out of middle clips, which I think we did. The big thing we used really was cutting down the shots to be the right length, and obviously, if I can find an example, and obviously the lip syncing during the performance aspects were key. Yeah, so for example here, Christian singing, and the rest of it was just timing and making sure we got all the shots. And obviously we had to disconnect the audio tracks from our video files and delete those, and insert the song, which is this green audio track you can see here. And part of this software and its depth allows us to zoom right into every individual frame, which was useful when setting up the lip syncing, as we could sort of really look at the peak of the audio. I'm not really sure what the audio terms are, like the decibels or something, and really help us sort of match it up and key it up quite nicely, which is quite useful. It's quite useful, and obviously on this editing software you've got these tools where you can mute tracks and blind tracks, and we just sort of utilise all those basic functions when creating a solid timeline of events, the video itself, this bit. So yeah, and I think we did colour grading in Premiere Pro. I'm going to go on to show you After Effects and Sony Vegas in a moment. A little bit of colour grading took place in After Effects, mainly for the transitioning fading shot, but apart from that, most of it took place here. There was actually some presets that we mixed together up here, a couple of the bleach bypasses, which sort of just drains the colour, which is what we was going for. I mean, we said dark and black kind of colours, but just general colour wash gave it that grunge feel, matching the conventions of a rock genre music video, which was one of the things we were striving to do. From progression from the rough cut, taking into account the audience feedback, we changed many features. A big one being, from the beginning, we took out if you see this shot up here in the raw footage, we had a brief introduction on our rough cut, which we removed, an animated logo which we removed, and if we actually go to the beginning, we added in this sort of photo album-y kind of memory referencing shot at the beginning, which we also then added in at the end, sort of to show that the whole video is kind of a flashback, sort of like our protagonist is reflecting on the loss of a loved one. All of that coming under the storyboard and the narrative seen in our other posts. But so we decided to add that in, give it sort of a sense of direction, I suppose. But before we added that, actually, after taking out our intro, we just sort of started with a fade in on this shot here. But now we sort of, if we look, we sort of go from that shot to that shot, which goes quite nicely, and then straight into some performance. All this is the finished music video, so you've probably seen this. What else we changed? I mean, just taking into account all the different audience feedbacks, because we made many different rough cuts. I think it was about 6, maybe 7 in the end. But just different shots were tweaked, some lip syncing was tweaked. Lip syncing was tweaked. Some shots removed, some shortened, some lengthened. Some new ones added. Reshoots, of course, were needed. We were able. I was showing you some presets, but we were able to get some color controls in, and use that to add in some blue and grey, take out some of the, and some red. I think we added in some red because that's sort of like, as you can see, as part of Ryan's outfit here, it's kind of a connotation of grunge, sort of that red checkered. So we added a bit of that in, sort of casual grunge, not heavy grunge, which we sort of feel this song is. It's not necessarily heavy grunge, so keeping in that element of casualness was part of the goal. So obviously, if you look at the thumbnails for this raw footage, you can see a lot of it's quite light, which obviously, if we look at, it's all sort of, you don't see that. This is all darkened and greyed from the colour grading. Like if we are to sort of zoom in on a clip here, and like, hold on. I can't get it up. Usually it would show you where the effects are. But anyway, so yeah, well, oh yeah, here you go. So got the color grading there, just an example of how it appears in the clip, pretty much. And we came up with a default one that we sort of implemented onto every shot individually, because doing it all at once could be done, but different shots have different lighting, so it required different levels of grading. So we went through and did everyone. Most of them pretty similar, pretty standard. And there was one shot, I'm not going to spend ages finding it, but it was just after the lead singer's partner dies, or however you wish to interpret it, the peak depressing moment of the video. And it is when the lead singer, then Chris, goes into singing or sort of more screaming the word alone, and the video gets very, very dark, and that sort of connotates how his life just took a very dark turn, kind of, and that worked quite well, we feel. Yeah, so that was sort of just the main editing. Like, if you go to the editing diary for the rough cut, it's pretty much the same process, just done again and again until we got the result we preferred. Yeah, I mean, other software we used is After Effects, this one here. So the original fading shot here, well, yeah, it was done in After Effects. You probably hear me in evaluation. I mean, it was only meant to be a placeholder because this was designed for the rough cut, so obviously you can see it's more him just walking offset and fading. But you'll probably hear me talking in evaluation how I felt using After Effects sort of overcomplicated things too much. So I actually moved over into Sony Vegas Pro, just because it has really sort of basic transparency and opacity tools. And that was, I mean, if we watch this back, you can sort of just see it's already a lot better, and that was in like less than 5 minutes worth of trying. So yeah, and yeah, I mean, when doing this shot, essentially all I did was I just had the base shot of all three of them walking, and then I cropped out sort of just over a third-ish, less than a half, of the clip where Charlie would be walking in the shot below, and then faded it out so where Charlie would be is replaced with the shot of an empty street. So here, so this, sorry, let me make this clear. So this shot is of the empty street, but I've cropped it so that only this section of this shot is in view, and it gradually fades into view. So what technically is happening is a shot is actually slowly fading into existence, but because the shot is of an empty street, it actually makes it appear as if Charlie is fading out of existence. Obviously not just Charlie, this happens with Ryan later on as well. Yeah, so this was just quite basic, really. I mean, you see me opening this window where you can, you see our masks and the resizing we did and all that stuff. I mean, it looks more confusing than it is, but again, it's sort of a semi-professional software that you can get used to the basics sort of very quickly and pick up. I mean, personally, I'd been using Premiere Pro and Sony Vegas before anyway, so I sort of had the basic knowledge, which sort of just gave us a head start to get us to jump right into that. I mean, you see this bar here, this is fading in, so that you can actually change the overall opacity of the shot, but we sort of just had a nice sort of fade in, change the duration of that, how long it takes. Pretty basic stuff, but adds a nice effect to our video. It changes things, keeps it a little bit original. After Effects is the same thing, just more complicated. I mean, this one, After Effects, you can probably see we color graded a bit more. Actually, to be fair, I think it's probably a bit too vibrant. It could have been a bit grayer looking back at it, but obviously this shot wasn't used, so it's kind of irrelevant now. But yeah, same sort of thing, different colour levels up here, and masking out one shot, overlaying, so it's just the same process really, same process, different software. Yeah, like I said, I feel like it was sort of overcomplicating in this one, so we just kept it. So we rendered it out from this and then imported it back into Premiere Pro for our finished product, where I don't know whereabouts it is in the clip now. Yeah, so it's around. We did color grade it before we rendered it out, although personally, when using Sony Vegas, I'm not a big fan of colorization in there. So we gave it a bit of brief change, tweaking, but mainly the color grading for even the fading shot was done in Premiere Pro once we'd imported it back in. So I'm trying to find an example for you, but I mean, if you watch the video, you'll see it, the shots where Charlie and Ryan fade. Yeah. So once again, it's a pretty similar process to the basic video editing diary. It's just repeated over and over again, implementing all our different audience feedbacks to obtain the best result for what we thought we wanted, what we wanted to achieve, as well as what appealed to the target audience. So yeah, that's the video editing diary.